I'm sorry about my voice. Today's webinar is the second in our series. It is called The Current Situation in Complementary Education, What's New and What Isn't. And as the basis for our discussion today, which I'm going to turn over to John in a second, we asked everybody to fill out a survey on SurveyMonkey, which asked 3 very interesting questions. We're going to share the results now, and we're going to talk about them and their implications. So I'm going to turn this over to John right now.
Okay, the presentation should be coming up. I think, between us, Steve and I probably have one voice. Whoops.
Okay, there's one last, by the way, John, there's one last instruction I want to give people. In order to see the results of the survey on your computer screens to its most effective way, in the bottom left-hand corner, you have a little button that says Fit to Screen. I would click on Fit to Screen, and then you have an option about whether or not you want to see this in full screen. In the upper right-hand corner between the Help button and Hide Tooltips, you will see full screen. If you click on that, you should have a larger, clearer picture of what I'm showing, and you'll get a message which says that the full screen disables your keyboard, which you're not going to be using in any case. So now I'm going to turn it over to John. Hopefully everyone can see the survey clearly and in large print.
Thanks, Steve. We thought we would divide today's conversation into 3 parts. In this first part, what we'd like to do is actually to review the responses with you and invite you to offer comments about what you're seeing reflected in the responses from yourself and from your colleagues. Thank you, first of all, to the 21 who did in fact reply, and that gives us at least a reasonable, I think, sample of all of the agencies. I certainly wouldn't claim that we should take this to be a scientifically valid survey, but it certainly is suggestive of what some of the broader trends are. So in the first part, we're going to want to look at the responses and really just try to reflect upon them in terms of what is the picture that we're seeing of what is happening in the area of complementary Jewish education today and what isn't happening. In the second part of the conversation, we want to try to focus this a little bit more by posing a question, and the question that we wanted to raise for you is, how does what you have seen impact on your thinking about the goals and the strategies that you should be employing in your central agency today? Given what we're about to go over, do you think that perhaps the way in which central agencies are thinking about and working in this area of complementary education really is adequate for the picture that we're seeing? Do we want more of what has been developing? Do we think that there are perhaps some new directions? And then the third piece that I hope we'll get to toward the end of the call is, what are the implications of all of this for the WOW project? Given the fact that that we're gearing all of the webinars in one way or another to the way in which Jesna and ADCA together have tried to formulate a new strategy for working in the arena of complementary education. How does what we've seen affect the way in which we think about the WOW project? Are we on track? Are there ideas that we ought to be thinking more about that we haven't thought about in the past? So that's the agenda. So let's turn to the first part, and Steve is going to roll us down the responses. So take a moment. The first question was, which of the following changes have you noted in your community over the past 5 years? And remember, there were 21 responses in all. Let's just take a minute and, Steve, slowly scroll us down so that people can read the responses, and then we'll come back and try to talk about them. Unfortunately, it's hard to show them all on the screen at the same time, so try to remember things that strike you as you are looking them over. Okay, so that's the group of responses. We tried, to sort of postulate a number of things that might be happening in your community, and you told us whether, in fact, in your judgment, they were happening in your community. So what is happening and what isn't happening as you read these responses? What struck you as particularly interesting, important to take note of, surprising, however you reacted?
This is Danny in Boston. To me, John, the most critical piece of data that I saw here affirms what I've been seeing, and I think is the most disturbing thing going forward, despite the theme for this particular webinar, and that is the decreasing numbers in general throughout the country of not only Jews, but Jewish children, let alone children who are going into some form of formal programming. That just is, I think, the demographic foundation on which a whole bunch of other things need to be looked at. And I think it raises even a greater challenge for congregations and day schools at the same time, obviously. But congregations in terms of what is it that is, what can we find, what can we think about, what do we have to hear from our people about what is not compelling about organized Jewish life today that might offset what we see as an absolute reduction, demographic reduction in our size across the country. I think it's a big problem. If we attracted 5% more kids from what's available, it would offset the normative reduction, the normative change, the reduction in the average of the numbers of of people that are participating in synagogue and in educational life. So if we have 40% today and a dwindling number, we need to find the way of getting 5 or 10% more so that our numbers would remain 40 or 50%, but of a smaller number. It would still be, we would still not have, would not be facing the closing of schools, the closing of congregations across the country.